Good evening. I'm Adventure Argonaut, and this is Argonaut Argues. I'm going to be discussing what is woke. That's an old question. I'm not going to spend too much money on, but I more want to discuss about borderline woke and something that's it's not so clear always whether it's woke or not. But first, I have to check whether all the streams are running. Yes, Kick and Twitch work. How about Rumble? I think so. And Party. Yes. And yes. Streams seem good. Okay. So I'm gonna be arguing, like I said, wokeness. What trying to explain what is wokeness and then what is borderline woke. But first, let's get to the history of wokeness. I have some notes here I scribbled up on my phone the other day. So, what is woke? So, it's based on Marxism to subvert the norm from the 19th century when Christian straight white men ruled the world. So it's even though they're called progressives, people who believe in this sort of ideology, they are quite regressive because it's based on ideas that may have been fact like over 100 years ago, but may not be so anymore because 100, let's say 150 years ago, European nations did practically like control the entire world in some sense. Like, most countries outside of Europe were somehow colonized or subjugated by Europeans, but that's not the case anymore. Many, like, East Asian nations have surpassed many European nations in technology and whatnot, and GDP and things like that. So it's ridiculous to base your ideology of something that may have been true over long before you were born or even before your parents were born. Um, whereas like, because things change, it's like, if you base your ideology on the notion that the Roman Empire rules most of Europe, or like the Qing dynasty of China rules the world or something, because things change, so it's ridiculous. So anyways, Marxism is, well, it's more like cultural Marxism than is development, because that was, Marxism comes from Karl Marx, of course, from the 19th century, and then early 20th century, the cultural Marxism came to be. So I asked Grok, the AI from Twitter or X or Xitter, a few questions about. So can you give me a brief description what is cultural Marxism? So wokeness has been, this cultural Marxism has been derived from the original Marxism, which was all about class struggle. The rich, the haves oppress the have-nots and stuff. And there are some points, like there's some arguments to be made that it's unfair for the poor working classes, and when the rich, whether they're capitalist or nobility or stuff, they have all the money. So there are some legit arguments, although so far I haven't seen them, like Marxist or communist or socialist, provide any good solutions to the problem. But at least they have some. So, I can understand why it became popular, because there's some ideas that catch your attention. Unfortunately, they don't have the answers. But anyway, so cultural Marxism was coined in the 1920s and 30s. Hey, Agent Double Hertz, welcome. So yeah, in the Frankfurt School in Germany, A group of scholars associated with the Institute of Social Research in Frankfurt, Germany in the 1920s and 30s. These thinkers, including figures like Theodor Adorno, Mark Horkheimer, Herbert Marcuse, extended Marxist critique to cultural phenomena. Core ideas. Cultural Marxism applies to Marxist concepts like the class struggle to culture, suggesting that cultural institutions like media, education, and art perpetuate capitalist ideology. It examines, well, looking at the media nowadays, well, I guess, like, it's not a smart capitalist, like, ideology in the sense that they don't make profit much, if they, at least if they push wokeness, but you can still call it capitalist. But anyways, it examines how the cultural reinforces class divisions and how cultural products might be used to maintain the status quo or to challenge it. And then critique of culture, it involves analyzing how culture shapes beliefs, behaviors, and social relations in ways that support or undermine capitalist structures. This includes looking at issues like race, gender, and sexuality through the lens of power dynamics and ideology critique. And the controversy, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, nowadays is not clear what is and is not cultural Marxism. But so I just wanted more about, succinctly tell me something about race, gender, and sexuality in cultural Marxism. So cultural Marxism, as an extension of Marxist theory into cultural critique, examines how race, gender, and sexuality intersect with power structures in society. It posits that these aspects of identity are not just personal characteristics, but are shaped by and help to reinforce systematic inequalities inherent in capitalist societies. Scholars in this tradition argue that cultural norms around race, gender, and sexuality have been constructed to maintain dominant ideology that supports capitalist interests. For instance, by critiquing how racial hierarchies, gender roles, and norms around sexuality serve to divide the working class, cultural Marxists aim to expose how these social contracts perpetuate oppression and control, advocating for liberation and equality through cultural and social transformation. However, this perspective often faces criticism, with some accusing it of promoting identity politics over class struggle, while others see it as a vital analysis for understanding contemporary forms of discrimination and advocating for social justice. So, yeah, I do think this is very accurate to wokeness, except the class struggle. I don't think that the wokies really care about the class struggle part, which, personally, I think is the most relevant part. Um, but except, maybe sometimes they might virtue signal to, pretend to be good socialists who care about that, old school working class stuff. But I think most of them, they just want money and then do virtue signal about their social or gender oppressions or whatever. And just, I was curious about this thing. So I asked, what religion did most members of the Frankfurt School belong to? Most members of the Frankfurt School were of Jewish descent. However, their work was primarily focused on philosophy, social theory, and cultural critique rather than religious practice or theology. Their Jewish background might have influenced their perspective on various social issues, given the historical context of anti-Semitism and the rise of fascism in Europe during that time. So yes, yeah, they were, pretty much all Jewish. However, it's just a coincidence, basically. That's what you should take out of it, clearly, like nothing else. But anyway, so cultural Marxism or this or wokeness. Well, they are, wokeness is evolution or diffusion, dissolution, whatever word, divergent form of cultural Marxism. Whatever it derives from cultural Marxism, even though there might be some differences. And I would say, like, just looking at the woke media in the past decade or so, I would say um, the main purpose of um, of that wokeness and cultural Marxism is to, subvert anything that is white, male, Christian, or straight, and then also elevate those who are not white, male, Christian, or straight, That's very has been very perceptible in media, in games and movies and so forth. Those that are called woke. So that is what is wokeness basically. And of course, it's not always clear. Like, let's say you have a straight black man and a gay white man, or a straight black man and or a black man and a white woman, who is more oppressed. But there are these clear hierarchies of oppression, and who is more oppressed has more privilege according to this system. Because in the 19th century, supposedly, group X was more oppressed than group Y, so therefore group X should have more privileges nowadays. That's their basic, the way they think. So that is what is wokeness. But then I want to discuss a thing called borderline woke, because personally, at least, I do have some problems. But because there are some games and stuff that I sort of like, but then they're a bit borderline woke. So it's like, is it okay for me to like it? Because, like, I don't really want to support wokeness. Agent Doublehead says the victim pyramid is very complicated. That's why God made social studies. I'm not sure if God made social studies. Maybe it was another entity from from below. But anyway, so borderline woke. I'm gonna give an example from the game Dredge. It's a horror game about fishing. Ah, the other dude. Yeah, the other dude. So Dredge, I played this off stream a few months ago. So I'm just gonna say what happens. Okay, when the game starts, you arrive there on a boat, but you get shipwrecked, and then you get another boat or something, and then you meet the mayor, this fat white guy, and he tells you to go fish. So then you go fish, and yeah, there you fish. You catch a couple of fish, and then you get back to the port, and you're gonna meet the fishmonger, who is this bearded guy, and you sell some fish to him. And after that, you're introduced to another character, and it's this builder woman, whatever her title was, I don't remember. But it's like it, because when I started playing the game, I had heard that it's sort of Lovecraftian game, and I was like, okay, it's Lovecraftian, it's probably set in the 1920s or something. And there's like, okay, maybe it's not. Well, yeah, there's the crane there in the background, so maybe that's more modern. But it's like, this is some remote fishing village in the middle of nowhere, and then there's suddenly this sassy black woman with a forehead like a Klingon, and it just stood out wrong. So this is like, it's not like, it's not in your face woke. So this is why I call it borderline, and it doesn't like ruin the game altogether, because if it's something that's clearly blatantly woke for me, then it's like, okay, I don't even want to play it. But this is like, it sort of rubbed me the wrong way. And especially like if it's one character that is out of the way, and it's not simply that it's a ethnic minority, but it's also because it's a woman in a very masculine, traditionally masculine profession. She's like a mechanic or builder, crafter, whatever the title of the character was in the game. And then there's few different women in very masculine roles. That's like, and I'm not saying it's inherently bad to have. And then there's this one. This is the gruff lighthouse keeper, sort of grizzled character that traditionally would have been an old man with a beard or something, but here it's a woman, old woman. So it's like, by itself, certainly this wouldn't bother me at all. This sort of woman, lighthouse keeper, but it's like altogether, it's a bit too many of them. And then there's this scientist woman, researcher woman, and then she even says something about how her in in her job or in her school she was the only woman, and how it's difficult for women to succeed in this sort of environment. I have some bellyache with Darkest Dungeon actually, although I love the game. Please do tell me. Like, I do have some issues with the game, but it's not because of wokeness really. Like, I had some fun, but some things really bothered me, like the pacing was bothered me when I played it long time ago though. But okay, then there's one more example. There's a few more, women in masculine roles in the game, but I have one more example. So then there's this traveling merchant woman who is like, I don't know if she's Eskimo or Vietnamese or whatever she is. But it's also like she's apparently operating this huge boat thingy by herself. It's like this thing you can see there, and travels between locations, and you can sell stuff to her or buy stuff from her and stuff. So it's like, yeah, it's you know by themselves it's nothing. One or two characters like that I can deal with, but when it's a lot of them, then it starts to bother me. But overall, I did like Dredge. It was a fun game, but also, I have some issues with some of the horror elements. Would have could have been done better, but still, overall, I liked it. So, Agent Overheard says about Darkest Dungeon, there are a lot of female heroes. It feels like they were trying hard to even it out, which in itself would not be a problem. Well, yeah, it's like in civilization games nowadays. Like, there's some nations that can never really have a male leader again, because I do understand that they want to have. There are weeb games where every human being is female. That's a bit different thing. I'll get to that later, like anime and Japanese stuff where there's lots of females. I wouldn't call it woke. Like, it can be criticized that for various reasons, but I wouldn't call it woke. Um, but yeah, like civilization games, like the newer ones, like China, their leader is Wu Zetian, like the one female empress they had, or like Byzantium has Theodora, because historically they had this one significant female leader, so she has to be the leader of the nation then, because we have to have lots of females. And I'm not against the idea of having female historical female leaders in countries, but it's like, if it takes away from other possibilities from some male characters, then it's not so nice. But anyways, let's I'm gonna show another example of borderline woke. So this is called Against the Black Priory, and you can see here this character Drina. She's a hospitaller or a paladin, basically. She's basically a paladin who's like the cornerstone of her community, that has been attacked by monsters and cultists and stuff, and she holds it together, and overall just her role is very masculine. So it's sort of like it's also struck me the wrong way, that because traditionally this would be a male character, because there's nothing really feminine about her except her appearance. And I'm not saying, a woman couldn't be a tough warrior or something, especially in a, fantasy world. But it's like, I don't like how, like, borderline wokeness is that making men and women somewhat interchangeable. Agent Doubleheart says, but in this most medieval setting, the most modern weapon are muskets. It just feels off that every other warrior is a girl. Yeah, yeah, I understand what you mean, but I don't think usually in Japanese products like that it's wokeness. It's a different thing. I think there's also lots of anime like this that pretty much all the characters are female, or maybe just the protagonist is a guy and then he has a harem around him, and it's, sometimes it's fine, but sometimes it's a bit uh, like creepy. Like, at least he should have like a male friend or two or something. But let's see what. And another example is, yeah, I titled this video about, it's called the Black Priory when I streamed it, the forced lesbian romance that summoned the King in Yellow. So yeah, this is like, there's a lesbian romance, like you have to help a lesbian couple get together in the game, and this I would call woke, and it's optional. However, it's not simply one quest and whether you get the experience from it, but I think it's like you have to get the couple together if you want to play the King in Yellow sub storyline. So yeah, that would certainly be woke. But it's like, generally speaking, I would say to people that don't buy things that are woke, but it's like, Scald is like, is still overall, it has woke elements, but it's still borderline, and I found it a decent game, and it's a small indie dev. So I don't want to be too harsh on them, but I'm just wondering, am I being too, I don't know, lenient in that sense? Maybe I should just be like, no, zero tolerance policy. Can't say. And then I want to go back to the past, and even like Monkey Island, I streamed it just, about a month ago, the last game of last year that I streamed, and it even has some borderline woke elements. But I'm gonna say why I would argue it's not woke. But first is Carla, the sword master. So she's the best sword master, at least on this island, Melee Island, or maybe in the Caribbean or whatever. And she's female, and her attitude is sort of like the sassy, annoying kind of personality that that many woke games have a female protagonist or some female character with a similar kind of attitude. And I should point out, this game was made in 1990, so this is before wokeness was really a thing, but certainly you can say some already proto woke elements in it, and especially I think where the Lucasfilm, the company that made it, it was probably in California, and that's sort of like the origin of contemporary wokeness. Uh, it's okay that Vestals are female, kind of non-variant. Yeah, Vestals should be female. They shouldn't be male. Vestal virgins from ancient Rome and stuff. But anyway, so Carla, she's this sort of very proto woke character. However, what makes her different from like modern woke characters is that even though she is sort of annoying and too perfect in some sense, but you can defeat her fair and square in the fencing match, and it's not like she lets you win or anything. So you still, as a this white male, you can defeat her. And even later on, when you recruit her to your crew, and even though she's because the mayor gets, oh no, the governor, she gets kidnapped, and you just have to tell Carla that, hey, please come help me rescue the governor, and Carla is very eager to come help you, whereas other of your crewmates, you sort of have to convince them, like the hard way. But in the end, she sort of betrays you and refuses to work and just lazes about on the ship and stuff. So it doesn't, in the end, she's not like a better person, like she's not superior to everybody, and she's not bestest ever like Ray or something. And then the other character is, of course, Elaine Marley, the governor. She's also very competent female, and she's a governor of the island in the age of piracy, golden age of piracy, island somewhere. Like, of course, historically speaking, it wouldn't be credible at all. But Monkey Island isn't trying to be that historically accurate or anything. Uh, and what got really my noggin jogging? The narrator uses a generic feminine once. Do you know what I mean? No, generic feminine, like she or something. But anyway, so Marley, she's, she also has these woke elements to her, that she's, very competent. And even like you try to, she gets kidnapped, but then you actually fail to rescue her, and actually she rescues herself. However, what makes her not woke, at least, very different to how that they wouldn't make the character like this nowadays, is that she really loves the main character, Guy Plus Threewood. This, guy, like, they have love at first sight. She doesn't act like she's better than him, even though, like, perhaps she is in more competent in many ways than Guybrush Threepwood, even though, Threepwood does defeat LeChuck, the evil ghost pirate, and stuff. So he is, even though the game presents him as a loser, he still is quite a hero in the end and stuff. So, because they are still treated as somewhat equal in their relationship and stuff, that's why it's not truly woke. Okay, Agent Overheard. He says a hero prepares before she ventures into battle or something. He means men and women. Okay, yeah. It's not necessarily, because I remember, Vampire the Masquerade, and storytelling, tabletop role playing games from the 90s and early 2000s and stuff. I used to play them a lot. They also use she instead of he, like in the book, like, just in the rules. Like, if a character wishes to attempt this maneuver, she has to roll these dice or something. So it's, I don't know, you can say it's a stylistic choice. Like, certainly you could say it's borderline woke, I guess, but it's not inherently completely woke, in my opinion. Okay, let's move on. And then I want to point out a game that isn't woke, in my opinion, even though it is a gay game. Because I want to make, well, at least in my head canon, there's a difference between being gay and being LGBT. Because this is like is in some sense very similar game to Scott against the Black Prior, even though it's much older. So yeah, there's this prison island where you end up. You're a prisoner who has committed a crime, or maybe there and stuff. But anyways, you gather lots of party members and fight monsters and enemies throughout the island and stuff. But then there are some people you can recruit, and then you can have intimate scenes with them. And I think most, if not all of them, are men, and you can have, like, gay scenes with them and stuff. And like, I think I probably like wish listed this game back in the day, or like almost when it appeared on Steam, I guess in 2016. But then, it was in my wish list for years, and I always, like, when it was a Steam sale, I was like, should I buy it? It looks interesting, but is it really gonna be that good? Like, is it a waste of my money and time if I buy it? And then at some point I saw the tag LGBTQ plus, and I was like, no. And then I threw it away from my wish list. But then the YouTuber Seth Gene Touch, however you're supposed to pronounce his name, he made a video of it. And it's like, okay, it looks pretty cool. And then I bought it and I played it and I liked it. And because, in my opinion, the LGBT moniker, it's more like a political moniker, that you have to believe in certain ideology, whereas gay is just, somebody who a man who likes butt sex, or gay woman is a woman who likes pussy sex, whatever. Like that's different. Like, I believe in heteronormativity, but still I can respect, and I can respect the designers of this game. They clearly have this sort of artistic vision, probably related, somehow inspired by their sexual fetishes or whatever. But it's not like propaganda, whereas LGBT stuff is propaganda, and they're like trying to put it in your face. But no, it's because in Bastard Bonds, even though I completed the game, I didn't get any of the gay scenes or anything. So it's not like it forces it on you, because you really have to go out and look for them. And also because I think it's just something that the developers themselves wanted it to have, and it's not and not in a political thing. So I can respect that, even though I don't share their desires. I should say. And then what's this? And there's another borderline woke old example. So this is a character from a Star Trek: The Next Generation episode Conspiracy. One of my favorite Next Generation episodes, Conspiracy. So it's about yeah, here is the episode name. It's about these alien parasites that take over people. They're trying to take over Starfleet and stuff. But anyway, there's this character, Twyla Scott, who is this black woman, and it said that she's like the youngest captain ever in Starfleet, and how she's super smart and stuff. And that you can say that's certainly because it's black woman, even though she has a really small role in the episode. So it's like proto woke or something. But in the end, she doesn't seem that smart, because she gets taken over by the alien parasites along with many other people, and it's sort of like a sort of footnote in the episode. But that's why I call it borderline. Just want some examples. And then there's the TV show Oz, from 1997 to 2003, and it's about prison. And you can, a male prison with lots of men there. You can imagine what happens there. So that's not woke, at least what I remember. I didn't watch every episode, but I did watch it for a while back in the day. But so yeah, there's of course lots of gay sex in the show, because there's men and they are forced to be in prison. But this is just a uh, somewhat realistic depiction of what happens in prison, or at least what I many people who haven't been to prison imagine happens there. So this is like, it's very different from even Bastard Bonds, even though in my book this isn't woke, it's just gay, but it's still like pro gay, whereas Oz is just neutrally trying to depict homosexuality, and doesn't really make a statement. But it's been 2 decades since I watched any of the shows. So of course, there might be subtle hints to one direction or another, but that's at least back in the day, I don't think many TV shows or stuff, they weren't really trying to promote homosexuality in itself. They were just depicting it as a stuff that happens. So, and just to go back to the was the Kingdom Come game. The Kingdom Come 2 Deliverance, because there's the gay scene that's optional, but it's still, and also the protagonist can choose to be gay, whereas in the first Kingdom Come game, the character wasn't gay at all. He was completely straight. Um, But so I cannot say about the game itself, because it's not out yet. Nobody has really played it yet. I cannot say sure, but I can point out the way the developers like Daniel Vavra is the head developer or something, how he is behaving, and he is certainly acting woke. So yeah, somebody says you should be ashamed of yourself for adding the gay romance to Henry, and then he's just sending this astronaut crying like boo hoo, boo hoo, and insulting, people who have issues with this thing. So yeah, I think this disrespectful and this blatant promotion of homosexuality, this is woke in my this behavior is woke, but cannot say for sure about the game. I'll try to be fair in that sense that I'm gonna go call the game borderline woke for now. And then let's have another example from the past. Like when I was a kid in the early 90s, there was this TV show, Walker, Texas Ranger, with, Chuck Norris. And I guess to go to the roots of wokeness. And then there was, this deputy, is this black guy. And I remember my mom and my older brother joking about, it's the token black guy. And back then I didn't know what the concept meant. I was too young. That was sort of like when I first became aware of the concept. And it's like, you know, it is, you can say it's proto woke, but hey, I'm not saying you shouldn't have, black people or other minorities in TV shows and stuff, but it is like an issue, like a complicated matter. Complicated matter that about like when is it truly woke and stuff, because and some of these things that they were innocuous 30 years ago, but nowadays they would raise more hell, like even Monkey Island, these characters. Even I might be more like um critical against these characters if it was made today, but it was made over 30 years ago, so it's a bit different. And anyways, then I have few proper woke examples, like there's no borderline. Yasuke in the upcoming was this. My son just woke up and started crying, so I'm distracted. Assassin's Creed game, even though it's a semi-historical character, but it's made into something completely different. This black power fantasy, basically, or like this Angurboda, whatever her name is. She's in some God of War game, and she's Jotun, I think, like a giant, a frost giant or something, or a goddess. I'm not sure. And they made her black in the game, which is of course completely silly. But I have to remind, like one of the Marvel Thor movies. They had like the Norse gods. They fought against like the black elves and stuff. And okay, Heimdall, one of the Norse gods, was black, which was silly. But then there, among the black elves, one of the black elves was actually a black guy. I approve of that. I thought that was funny. But anyways, this is clearly white or whatever mythological character. Maybe her skin should be blue or something, is replaced with a black woman. That's basic woke. And then there's of course Dustborn, which is, I guess, the epitome of wokeness. The game with all sorts of microaggression, um, lecturing, and stuff like that. Yeah, I haven't played it. I've seen some clips, and based on what I've on and some reviews. So based on what I've heard, this is like the most woke thing ever, which makes people think it might be, a parody. So yeah, so I just hope I managed to explain why I think why I have this issue with borderline woke and complete woke. Because if it's complete woke, like these three, I would I have no sympathy for them, and they just go to the trash heap basically. But then like Scald, it has borderline woke elements, but and it's a indie game and stuff, so I do have sympathies for it. And yeah, there's still Going back to the 90s, and back in the 90s, there were these female TV shows with female characters like Xena and Buffy, but like the I guess the obvious thing is for like they weren't trying to be historically accurate or too realistic. Like Buffy is a cheerleader who gains some basically magic powers to fight against vampires, and Xena is just, I don't know, well, she's sort of blessed by Ares, the god of war or something, but it's like because I do remember, in the early 90s, being a kid and some other kids, we were wondering, like, games like Street Fighter 2 had Chun Li, that female character, and Mortal Kombat had Sonya, and, sort of wondering, like, is it realistic that this woman could fight against men, and win and stuff? Like, I do remember, we thought about it, but nowadays it's not so. I think it's more like these fighting games have lots of female characters because of the boob physics and stuff like that. Because people, guys playing the game like the visually female characters, so it's not because of wokeness inherently. And then the anime argument and Japanese games that they have teen girls fighting against monsters or whatever, fighting wars and stuff. It's not really woke in my book. Well, because it's not going back to cultural Marxism and elevating minorities or gays or anything like that. It's not it's the intention. I don't think they're doing it because of that. I think it's more like because the because anime girls look nicer than anime guys usually. That's basically the reason. So that's why it's not woke in my opinion. Like this countless. This was the first one I could think of. Magic Knight Ray Earth, with female teen girls fighting with weapons against monsters and whatever. But yeah, so it's basically it's an aesthetic choice, but I do understand, like, it's sort of like yeah, it feels sometimes sometimes it's acceptable. The you can suspend your disbelief sometimes with teenage girls or boys using magic and weapons to fight against who knows what. But sometimes it goes a bit too far. Like, come on, like, you'd like it to be a bit more down to earth and believable. So, but I just yeah, wanted to point out I don't consider this woke, because I don't consider it woke at all. um but that's basically all I wanted to say. So borderline woke. So these like Scald and Dredge, they were my best examples. Um, if I really thought of it, I probably could have found more, but I didn't really want to waste several hours trying to decode, or go through my gaming history and wait, what was this? What game had these woke elements that I wanted to talk about and stuff? Hey, official super cow. Hi, bro. You're good. Thanks. But yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to say. Yeah, it's late and I have to wake up early tomorrow, anyways, and my son has to be put to bed eventually. So, did Disco Illusion promote socialism, or was it critical of it? Good question. Um, I'd say it was biased towards socialism, but it was also critical of it. It's like I think it genuinely tried to be neutral, but you could see the leftist bias in the game. So it's yeah, that I would call it borderline as well. Yeah, good catch. Welcome to party if you are going to have a good sleep. Thanks, official super cal. But yeah, I'm Adventure Argonaut. I'm gonna go to sleep and stuff after I do all the other stuff. And thanks for watching and all that stuff. Bye bye.